Well, hey everybody, it's Saturday, September 7th, and I am on my fifth annual Zevon-A-Thon. So far this morning and into early afternoon, I started by playing the digital version on Spotify of the song Trouble Waiting to Happen from the Sentimental Hygiene record. This is the fourth year in a row I've started with that now. Traditionally, I've started with it on the vinyl version, but I thought, it's a lot easier just to, just to hook my phone up. Um, and then I played part of the Life Will Kill You CD. I played all of Mutineer, Mr. Bad Example. Those are on CDs. All of Transverse City, all of Sentimental Hygiene, and part of the live record Learning to Flinch. I really wasn't sure what my playlist was going to be. I start with the same song every year, and then it's different every year. And excuse me, I've got a bit of viral crud been going on for a little over a week now. I'm hopefully on the final end of it here. Um, and I've kind of just gone chronologically backwards. And so, I'm going to keep going backwards, except taking out the albums that are my favorites. I always save the absolute favorites until the end. Um, I know every year I kind of glean something new. Last year it was a lyric off um, Bad Luck Streak and Dancing School that really hit me this year, probably because of personal circumstance in the last few years. A very tender ballad off the Sentimental Hygiene record, which, if you're watching this, you know what it looks like. But anyway, here's Sentimental Hygiene. Um, it's the next to last track on the album called The Heartache. And there's a line here that says, "Never thought I'd be alone like this. Guess I should have been a realist. That's the trouble with relationships. They end too soon." And, on a very personal note, um, twice, twice in my life now, I've thought that I was in one that was going to be forever, and neither one was. And so, anyway, that just, I'm not crying over it. I'm actually emotionally and mentally in a pretty good place as far as, being single uh, while recording this. But something about Warren's lyrics, I mean, he could write these down and dirty, nasty characters. He could write songs about mercenaries and war and addicts and all this stuff, and yet he could write some beautiful ballads, and that's one of them. And so that's the one that sort of hit me today so far. And what a beautiful song. Um, and so before I name my top five Zevon songs, which the first two came to me like that, but then the next three I almost kind of had to think about just because of the breadth and the depth of his work and just the staggering amount of great songs he had. I'm going to share with you what the Zevon and Zevon related items I've managed to acquire since last year's Zevon-A-Thon. Although I'm going to cheat a little bit only because last year I had just got this and I completely forgot to mention the Hindu Love Gods record, which most of you, if you're watching this, are probably familiar with, but you may not be. This was a side project that I don't think originally included Warren, but he used the drummer, guitar player, and bass player from REM. I say he used, or they used him. He was their singer, and over the course of I think it was just one or two fairly fun nights. Let's just say that they had quite the time while recording this. They did mostly all old blues and blues rock covers and some old rock and roll. They do a great version of Muddy Waters' "Manish Boy" on here, but they had a minor hit with a oddball cover of Prince's "Raspberry Beret," and that can be found on a couple of Warren's uh, best of or hits collections. So anyway, this is maybe more for completists like me, but it's a fun record. I don't think it's available even on CD and print anymore. You might be able to stream it. I know you can find it on YouTube. Worth checking out. So anyway, um, sort of in chronological order here. Last November, I happened to be at a record store in Chicago, which primarily focuses on jazz. The Dusty Groove record store, which is one of the best in that town. I found a vinyl copy of Zevon's debut record, Wanted Dead or Alive. Now, Warren himself, this is a hodgepodge of styles and songs, and Warren himself kind of decried this over the years. He wasn't even a fan of it, and a lot of Zevon fans aren't. I am actually. It's not his best. I'm not going to say that, but there are some glimpses of the sheer brilliance of what was to come on here. So, and it was only $15 for a very good plus copy at Dusty Groove in Chicago. So this was a really cool find. I played it. It sounds really good. I enjoy it for for what it is. Next, I don't remember which of these came first, but I found two tribute CDs. I was finally able to get one that has been out for quite a few years now. I managed to get the Enjoy Every Sandwich tribute that his son Jordan and his friend Jorge Calderon put together. Don Henley, Adam Sandler, Steve Earle, Reckless Kelly, Jackson Brown, Bonnie Raitt, Bruce Springsteen, The Wallflowers, Jordan Zevon, Billy Bob Thornton, Pete Yorn, Bob Dylan, David Lindley, Ry Cooder, Jill Sobule, The Pixies, Jorge Calderon, and Jennifer Warnes. Holy mac! And the surprise hit on here, the surprise great song on here is Werewolves of London by Adam Sandler. I think a lot of us who are Warren fans, we love the song, we appreciate it, but we know that there was so much more to him. But Sandler did a really fun, loving version of that, and it's absolutely great. And Springsteen did a beautiful version of My Rides Here, a slowed down acoustic version from a live concert. It was great. So there's that. And then I don't even remember how I came on this one. It was a song of it was on a suggested playlist for me. Shooter Jennings and the Werewolves of Los Angeles. Yes, that Shooter Jennings, the alt country guru, the producer extraordinaire, son of Waylon Jennings, got together a band toward the end of 2022, and they did a live Warren Zevon tribute. Lawyers, Guns, and Money, Excitable Boy, Mama Couldn't Be Persuaded, Muhammad's Radio, I Was in the House When the House Burned Down, My Shit's Fucked Up, Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me, Dirty Life and Times, Werewolves of London, The French Inhaler, and Desperados Under the Eaves. It's available on vinyl format, but you may be asking, Brent, why didn't you buy the vinyl? Because the vinyl doesn't have as many songs as the CD, and I don't know if this was the whole show, but I wanted as much of it as I could get, so that's why I picked up the CD. It is nothing short of phenomenal. Do yourselves a favor. If you're a fan of Warren's, which you are because you're watching this, or Shooter Jennings, and if you're not familiar with them, go get this. This is amazing. Then, a few weeks ago, I was at one of my local record stores. I didn't know, because, we all need more copies of, more pressings of the self-titled album. I didn't even know that a 2 LP version was coming out with demos and live tracks from the radio and whatnot, and alternate versions of the songs that are on here. And these are the versions that were released on the deluxe CD edition some years ago, which oddly I don't have. And so when I saw this, I thought, oh, it's a great sounding remaster, because the original CD pressing did not sound that good. I've got one from from the 80s, early 90s or whatever, and I think I've mentioned before, that's why I was not a huge fan of the debut, because the sound quality of the CD I bought was just terrible. And then I got an OG pressing, and it totally opened my eyes to the album. And then this sounds absolutely stellar. And the bonus tracks really, especially since a lot of them are demos or earlier versions, they provide an insight into what the final album would be. And this is, again, if you don't have the self-titled album, pick this up. If you, excuse me, if you do and you're a collector like me, go get it. Worth your time. And then just a couple of weeks ago, I happened to come across a admittedly dubiously legal live radio broadcast, Headless in Boston, from 1982. This has been making the rounds for years and years. You can tell this was taken from somebody's tape right off the radio, because the announcer's voice is still in it. But it's a 19-song tour de force This is an excellent complement to the Stand in the Fire live album. It's not quite as fiery, but darn close, and it has quite a few more songs than that one did. Um, it had the Envoy on it, so this came out just after the Envoy did, which Stand in the Fire was right before the Envoy. Um, yeah, excellent live album. I played it the other night. I've only listened to it once, but I fell completely in love with it. Again, this is another one that's been going around for years. This is from 2013. I know there's a vinyl pressing of it, but it's extraordinary amounts of money, and for the quality. And you can even hear some radio cackle on this, which is cool because it's almost like you're listening to the broadcast itself. Um, I'm not going to spend $150 on the two record set when I can have the CD and it sounds just as good, maybe better. My pug is over here. She's snoring away. Let's see if we can get. She wanted down here, as happens almost every year. She wanted down, and then she steals my spot and falls asleep. So, um, it's she's the best little pug ever. Cheers, everybody. So, we've already gone on over 10 minutes. Get to my top five Warren Zevon songs. This was easier than I thought it would be. Like I say, the top two really they came immediately to me. The other three came quick. I didn't necessarily have to think too long about them. To pin down a number five was actually really hard because there could be a bunch of honorable mentions, but I'm not going to do those. And again, maybe if you ask me tomorrow or next week, four and five could be something else because again, there's just so much great work in Zevon's catalog. So I guess this is kind of 5-1. Number five is the opening track to The Wind, My Dirty Life and Times, a very autobiographical, self-deprecatingly humorous look at Zevon's life made at the end of his life. There's humor and heart, but there's honesty and there's hard stuff underneath there, which is all those qualities are qualities that make up so many great Zevon songs. But I've always been attracted to that song. One really just from the last 2 or 3 years, and it's from the Mutineer album, and there's a really good acoustic or solo version on Learning to Flinch. The live album is The Indifference of Heaven, and that album came out before Mutineer, so he was premiering that song live before recording it. Again, there's a cynical look about it, but yet there's hope and there's heart in it. Number three, these are probably always going to be my top three. Roland the Headless Thompson Gunner, which of course, was written with I'm blanking on the mercenary's name, but a real life mercenary while Warren and his wife were living over in Europe. Just the tale of being in Africa in the 60s and the guy having his head blown off and coming back as a specter and taking out vengeance on those who betrayed him and did him wrong. It was David Letterman's favorite song, I believe, and one he finally coaxed him into playing when Zevon made his final appearance on Dave's show just before he passed. Number two, this one's kind of out of left field, and I mentioned it earlier, My Rides Here. I love that album. It's one of my three favorite Zevon albums. The guitar in it is what really does it for me, but the lyrics, of course, and he was unknowingly foreshadowing his own demise because he was diagnosed, I believe it was later that year, early the next year, with inoperable cancer. There's a timeless sense to this song. It could have been from the early 2000s. It could have been 50 years before. It'll be great 50 years from now. It's fantastic. And then my number one favorite is Hasten Down the Wind from the self-titled. Just a melancholy, beautiful, sad depressing, wonderful song, um, and something so many of us have been through. You know, whether it's a romantic relationship, maybe, or even it could be a friendship or relative. Somebody who's basically tells you the relationship is over, and then changes their mind and sort of gaslights you and messes with you. And we've all been there, and it's just so relatable, but it's so beautiful. So there are my top five Warren Zevon songs: the "Dirty Life and Times," "The Indifference of Heaven," "Rollin' the Headless Thompson Gunner," "My Rides Here," and "Hasten Down the Wind." So I'm going to get back to the music. As I'm recording this, it's just about 1 in the afternoon. We've gone on just a hair over 15 minutes. So anyway, Zevon-A-Thon number 5, well underway. Um, this has almost barely scratched the surface. So I hope everybody's doing all right. Boy, a lot of coffee splattered over my mug today. So cheers, everybody. Take care of yourselves.